everybody! My name is Emma Kate, and today I'll be discussing the 2017 Korean film I Can Speak, directed by Kim Hun-sok. At first glance, this film appears to just be a lighthearted comedy about an elderly woman learning English. However, as the story develops and goes on, it becomes a much deeper and more emotional exploration of memory, survivor testimony, and an important chapter of Korean history. What I found most impactful about this film was how it used language and communication as symbols for reclaiming a voice after years of silence. Through the story of Na Ok-boon, this film introduces viewers to the experiences of comfort women during the Japanese colonial rule and highlights the importance of sharing personal stories to preserve history. But first, a little information about the film. I Can Speak was released in 2017 and directed by Kim Hun-sok. The film stars Na Moon-hee as Na Ok-boon and Lee Ji-hoon as Park Min-jae. Na Ok-boon is an elderly woman who is well known throughout her neighborhood for constantly reporting problems and filing complaints with local government offices. Because of this, she's often seen as difficult or even annoying by those around her. Park Min-jae is a young civil servant who eventually develops a friendship with her and helps her learn English. Throughout the film, the relationship between these two characters becomes one of the most important parts of the story. At the beginning of the film, Ok-boon seems just like a stubborn, elderly woman who just simply wants to learn English. She repeatedly asks Park Min-jae to teach her, and eventually he agrees. As the film progresses, viewers learn that her motivation is much deeper than initially appears. Ok-boon wants to learn English so that she can travel and speak before an international audience. She eventually reveals that she is a survivor of the Japanese military comfort women system during World War II. Then the film kind of shifts from a comedy into a powerful historical drama as Ok-boon prepares to share her experiences publicly. By the end of the film, she even finds the courage to tell her story and advocate not only for herself, but for countless other survivors whose voices have gone unheard for many, many years. But to understand the importance of I Can Speak, I think it's necessary to understand historical background of Japanese colonial rule in Korea. Japan officially annexed Korea in 1910 and controlled the Korean peninsula until the end of World War II in 1945. During this period, many aspects of Korean culture and identity were suppressed. Koreans faced restrictions on their language, education, and even political rights. Many people experienced discrimination and were expected to just assimilate into Japanese society. Because of these conditions, many Koreans participated in resistance movements and fought to preserve their culture and national identity. The effects of colonial rule continued to impact Korean society long after liberation and remain an important part of Korean historical memory today. One of the most significant historical issues addressed in I Can Speak is the comfort women system. During World War II, the Japanese military established a system in which thousands of women and girls from Korea and other occupied territories were forced into military sexual slavery. Many of these victims were really young and taken from their homes through deception, coercion, and sometimes force. The physical and emotional trauma experienced by the survivors often lasted for the rest of their lives. Following the war, many remained silent for decades due to fear, shame, or just simple social stigma. Because of this silence, many people around the world were unaware of the experiences for many, many years. Although I Can Speak does not focus on any graphic details, it does show the long-term impact of historical trauma and the importance of acknowledging the experiences of survivors. One of the reasons this film is so powerful is because it was inspired by real survivor testimonies. Beginning in the 1990s, survivors of the comfort women system began publicly sharing their stories. One of the first was Kim Hak-sun, whose testimony encouraged many others to come forward. Another important survivor was Lee Young-soo. She became an international advocate and spent years publicly speaking about her experiences. Through speeches, interviews, and activism, she brought global attention to the issues and encouraged discussions about historical recognition and justice. The story of Na Ok-boon reflects many of these real-life experiences. Like actual survivors, she chooses to speak publicly after years of silence. Her decision to learn English symbolizes her determination to ensure that her story can be heard by an international audience. This film had many major themes, but what stood out to me most was the idea of finding a voice. At the beginning of the film, learning English seems like just a simple personal goal. She wants to do it. However, by the end of the film, language becomes a symbol of empowerment. Learning English allows Ok-boon to share her experiences and reclaim control over her own story. The film also explores themes of memory, courage, justice, and healing. I personally appreciated that the filmmakers chose to tell this difficult story through the perspective of an ordinary person, instead of just focusing on historical people, historical events. The audience was actually able to connect emotionally with Ok-boon's experiences, and I think it really helps to understand the lasting impact that historical trauma has on individuals. The film also shows that sharing these stories can be a form of resistance. By speaking out publicly, these survivors preserved historical memory and helped ensure that future generations will really understand what happened. Personally, to me, I found this film to be one of the most moving films we watched throughout the course. I was really impressed by how the film balanced serious historical topics with moments of humor and warmth. The friendship between Ok-Boon and Min Jae helped the story feel personal and relatable. Because viewers became invested in the characters, the historical revelations later in the film just had that much more of a greater emotional impact. I also appreciated how the film focused on survivor testimony rather than just simple historical facts. History often focuses on just major events and political leaders, but films like I Can Speak remind us that history is made up of individual people and their individual experiences. The film encourages me really to explore how much courage it takes for survivors of traumatic events to share their stories publicly. While sharing these stories may reopen painful memories, it's very important to help preserve history and raise awareness for future generations. Overall, this film was very successful in my opinion. I think I Can Speak is both an engaging film and an important historical story. Through the character of Na Ok-Boon, the film introduces viewers to a history of the comfort women while also exploring broader themes of memory, courage, and justice. What makes this film especially powerful is it just shows how ordinary people can have extraordinary strength. By finding her voice and sharing her story, Ok-Boon helped ensure that the future and experiences of these survivors are not forgotten. For viewers with very little knowledge of Korean history, I think I Can Speak serves as both an accessible introduction to an important historical issue and a reminder of the importance of listening to and preserving survivor testimonies. It's also just a great film to watch. Thank you.